AEW Ring of Honor. All Elite Wrestling presents Ring of Honor. Doesn't that have a good ring to it? Pardon the pun. Doesn't that sound nice on the tongue? AEW Ring of Honor. Well, that's the name that Tony Khan was kicking around as he brought it up in a meeting, completely all by himself without even being asked about it. And it sounds like he's toying with the idea of branding it as an AEW product. Remember, he tried to get it a TV deal, and Warner Bros. Discovery were not interested in a separate company's name, Ring of Honor. So if you add the AEW name to it, because I've always said all along that Ring of Honor should just replace Rampage or Collision, not Collision. Keep AEW Dynamite and Collision, replace Rampage with Ring of Honor if you're going to do that. But the network didn't want Ring of Honor. So if you add the AEW title to it, that could change things. So this does sound like this is something that is seriously being considered by Tony Khan and AEW. But is it good for Ring of Honor? And has AEW's ownership of Ring of Honor been good for Ring of Honor at all, in any way, shape, or form? What exactly is Ring of Honor at this point here in 2024? For all of these questions and more, we're going to check out this clip here from the Pro Wrestling Torch YouTube channel, Wade Keller, talking with his co-host about the problems with the current Ring of Honor product under Tony Khan's ownership and the potential to rebrand it as AEW Ring of Honor.
During the media scrum, talked about how maybe he wants to rebrand ROH as AEW ROH. My broad question to you, and then we'll get into more details here, Greg, is ROH worth saving?
ROH at this stage reminds me a lot of when WWE bought ECW. Right? Both ECW and ROH were on the verge of going out of business if they had not been purchased by a larger wrestling company. And once they were under the banner of that company, they really lost a lot of their identity. Had all the fingerprints and hallmarks of WWE booking on it. And the same thing has happened to ROH. It's taped before Collision or after Collision or Dynamite. It's not its own real entity. It's loaded up with AEW wrestlers. All you have to do is look at the pay-per-view on Friday. I mean, it was main evented by Roderick Strong versus Mark Briscoe, two wrestlers who are on AEW almost every week. And so it doesn't even feel like it necessarily has its own roster.
Tony Khan obviously has a fondness for it. But the question is Tony Khan's fondness for it kind of 15 years expired? Has he ever really processed what its purpose to exist is? And it's never been defined. I mean, I've never heard Tony Khan say, well, here's why ROH is a place. NXT has a place in the WWE system right now because it's a third brand. It's developmental. It's in a studio setting. There's guest stars who are clearly treated as bigger deals than the major stars who headline WrestleMania. NXT wrestlers and titles are not defended on main Raw, SmackDown, WWE pay-per-views. It has a separate reason to exist, and people embrace that, and you can market it that way. Ring of Honor does feel kind of like AEW dark. Why is he spending time and mental energy keeping it on life support?
And I don't know that slapping the letters AEW in front of ROH is going to significantly help.
Putting the letters AEW in front of the letters ROH really only serves one purpose, and that's to get Ring of Honor a TV deal, to slide them onto the TV. Look, there's nothing in the contract, as far as I'm aware, of course I didn't read it, but why would there be, that says that AEW can't change the name of Rampage to, say, Ring of Honor, as long as it's an AEW product, an AEW show. So that appears to be the play. That's where I'm hanging my hat. If Tony Khan can't get Ring of Honor its own TV deal, it can't just live on Honor Club forever. At some point, it needs to do something with itself or it's going to die. So maybe that's the play. Get it a TV deal along with AEW by just putting it on TV either as a fourth show under the AEW title or just replace Rampage, which would be the smart thing to do. Will the networks go for that? I don't see why not. There's no rule against rebranding, right? But who the fuck am I? I didn't read the contract. But the bigger problem appears to be just the fact that Tony Khan owns AEW. Now, owns Ring of Honor. Of course he owns AEW. I've always been a supporter of this move to buy Ring of Honor for Tony Khan, mainly for the Ring of Honor tape library. You know, I've made the comment a few times on this show that WWE's tape library, and look, maybe, you know, before I even finish that sentence, let me add this caveat. Maybe it doesn't even matter because WWE is not doing a lot to monetize the back catalog of previous, you know, library from other promotions. But I've always said that WWE, the content that they own is kind of getting old now. They don't own a lot of the back catalog footage of a lot of their top stars. Now that will eventually change as well, as, you know, when they start to get to the point where almost all of their talent are coming out of the PC, they will own all of that footage. But a significant chunk of the wrestling business has still made its way through Ring of Honor. You look at CM Punk, for example. You look at Seth Rollins, for example. You want that library in your collection just so you can tell stories or sell DVDs or do the fucking A&E biography gimmick or whatever. Tony Khan owns that. I've also been an advocate of Tony Khan trying to scoop up more recent content libraries. I told him he should jump on Pro Wrestling Guerrilla whenever that comes available, simply because a lot of today's current stars, and especially on his roster, came from Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And scoop up any other indie promotions libraries. If they start to fold and you get the opportunity to buy them up, do it as long as it makes financial sense and there are stars that have wrestled there where that library makes sense to own. Right? Ring of Honor made sense to own. You don't just let that float out there. And I'm shocked that WWE didn't scoop it up simply for the DVDs. So it's worth that alone. But as a product now, I believe the reference was made on that. If it didn't make the clip that I showed you, it was certainly in that video. Comparing the new Ring of Honor to WWE's purchase of ECW. It's half-assed. It's essentially another brand of AEW as ECW was of WWE. There was nothing that made ECW different. You know, when it started, they had the original tunnel and they put it out like on the side, you know, because the SmackDown stage, and then they could just drop a curtain in front of that and put the ECW stage in front of it or off to the side. But other than that, I mean, they were doing the big arenas that had all the same lighting, the same ring. They tried to differentiate, you know, having unique stars at first. That's ECW. But eventually it just ended up being a third brand for WWE, with WWE guys trickling over into there. Same thing with Ring of Honor. That's what Tony Khan's doing. It's most of the roster, half the roster at least, is just AEW guys. And you may think, well, some of these AEW guys, they're not being used on AEW TV as much, so Ring of Honor is a good place for them. Brian Cage, for example. Sammy Guevara just made a debut in Ring of Honor. I don't know why Athena has not been on national TV with AEW in a long time. To me, that's an absolute star player on your roster for the women's division that you're essentially benching because nobody watches fucking Honor Club. I'm sure some of you listening do. Look, obviously some people subscribe to Honor Club, but do they though? Do they really? How many people do they have? Is that public information? I can't imagine that it's doing great. You're hiding stars over there. You should not be cross-pollinating talent. I think there should be a hard brand split between Collision and Dynamite. let alone obviously fucking Ring of Honor. But no, it's all just one big cesspool of talent. So that's part of the problem. Also, it's an afterthought. Tony Khan can't book Dynamite very well. Collision and Rampage are certainly afterthoughts. What does that make Ring of Honor? And Tony Khan thinks he can just book all of it in his little fucking notebook in between meetings with the NFL and shit. He's scribbling on his little fucking notebook. He's got okay, this page is Ring of Honor booking. That's going to be on this notebook. This notebook is Dynamite. And he's just scribbling out matches is all he's doing. That's all he's doing. And then those guys can tell their own story if they want to, or they can't. It doesn't matter because Tony Khan can't be bothered to create all of that because he's got 5 different fucking shows to book matches for. It's sad. It's embarrassing. He has basically killed Ring of Honor. He has it for the library, and that's going to come into play with the Max deal, too. If AEW re-ups with Warner Brothers Discovery, which is expected that they will, because Warner Brothers Discovery is not going to get the NBA deal, and that's sort of what they're holding out for, because they're going to need every spare penny that they can spare to lock in the NBA, and if that means they got to wipe their hands of AEW to do it, they certainly will. But they probably won't, which means they're going to have they're going to have extra money laying around. They're going to invest it in AEW to help grow that product, help get it back up over that 700,000. It will be on Max, and that Ring of Honor library could end up on Max as well. So that's going to make that, similar to Peacock as destination for WWE fans, at least for now. I suspect Netflix will steal all of that when the American rights come up. They already have it internationally. I can't imagine that they're going to allow Peacock to hold all the pay-per-views and all of the entire back catalog when they're spending so much on Monday Night Raw. They're going to want to and they have the WWE Network catalog and the pay-per-views essentially in other countries. They're just going to buy up that whole bag. But as of right now, getting back on topic here, Peacock, similar to Peacock, if AEW can do that on Max, they can put their entire back catalog there, Ring of Honor's entire back catalog there, all of their pay-per-views stream live there, and you get like days later or a week later, AEW, Dynamite, Collision, Rampage. That's going to be a solid deal and will be worth them having Ring of Honor. But none of it's going to mean shit if Tony Khan's booking it all out of his notebook. Again, it all goes back to Tony Khan being a shitty booker. And I know I lose fucking subscribers every time I mention that in a video, because there's people that are just so diehard. I just love AEW and they can't do anything wrong ever. They don't suck. Tony's the greatest. We love our dream matches. All their stories are amazing. What are you talking about? You're delusional. Okay, fine. Tony Khan sucks at booking, though, so that's the problem. He needs to stop spreading himself. He needs to get a creative team for his big shows, but I would just pass Ring of Honor off to somebody else entirely. He's either got to pass his big shows off to other people entirely and just be the final decider to say yes, yes, no, 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 yes. And then he can do his little notebook pencil fucking scribbling for Ring of Honor and be the exclusive booker for Ring of Honor if he wants to book wrestling still. Or do the reverse if he wants to, be a booker, man. Focus more of your attention on the AEW product. Hire somebody else to do Ring of Honor. You got Jeff Jarrett on your roster. I go to him. He's my go-to number one every time I talk about this. And I'm not even a Jeff Jarrett fan, and I never even liked his booking all that much, but it's better than Tony Khan's. And he's got more experience with it, and it takes some weight off your shoulders. And look, you can always replace him, but it's a start, right? It's a step in the right direction. Jeff, how would you feel about taking over Ring of Honor completely? And nope, you don't even have to answer to me. Just Ring of Honor is yours now. Run it like you ran TNA. Run it like you were going to run Global Force, whatever the fuck. But now it's yours. It's Ring of Honor. Here's what I want. Here's my vision for Ring of Honor that I want you to execute. Do it up. If I have any problems, we can, we'll have weekly, monthly meetings or whatever. We'll have a talk. That's how you do it. Get it out of Tony's hands. But I think I've ranted enough there. To me, at the end of the day, adding AEW to Ring of Honor and making it not a separate promotion anymore, making it a show or a third brand, a second brand, third brand, however the fuck you want to describe it, for AEW, similar to the way ECW was or the way NXT is, WWE NXT. Sure. At this point, who cares, right? Honestly, what's the difference? Tony's not going to sell Ring of Honor. He's never going to sell Ring of Honor. So what's the difference if his title's on it? Especially if it can help Ring of Honor get the exposure that it's dying for, literally dying for, because if it just remains on Honor Club for the next couple of years, there's not going to be much of a Ring of Honor left. It's just coming out of Tony's pockets. It cannot possibly be self-sustaining at this point, especially when you're using AEW talent. Maybe that's the way he's saving money on Ring of Honor. He's already got these people under contract. It's already in the AEW budget, so his talent roster is essentially free for Ring of Honor. I don't know, but that's what I would do. What would you do? What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. And especially, like, did Tony bastardize? Let's just leave it off there. Ring of Honor has a very rich, strong history. It has some down points, too. So it wasn't all just fucking roses and peaches and cream and stuff. But yes, Tony Khan has basically buried a Ring of Honor. It is a shell of what it used to be. I don't think it can return to the glory that it was, but it can certainly grow as a second or third brand, or however you want to describe it, for AEW as an NXT or an ECW. We'll leave it there. Peace, love, and pizza. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Ooh yeah, thanks for checking out the video. You can check out more great clips by hitting that subscribe button below. Yeah. While you're there, don't forget to leave a comment. Don't forget to like it if you liked it. Ooh yeah, did it.